Tactical 40K, as the camera jumps around. We have got some more releases from Games Workshop, and they're pretty cool. Kind of blows the channel up from what our first mission was, which is to come up with a competitive Raven Guard list. And well, what we've learned about sub factions, when we learned about how they're going to structure the game now, it's interesting. But I have some theories on it that might allow you to play factions still, but at the same time, like they said, it doesn't matter what color you paint your dudes. And I don't know, I was very disheartened by it. Like, oh man, I've put in a lot of time and effort to try to do this, and then it kind of changed. But I have a theory. My theory being that the Battle Force box, going back to that's where a lot of my things have been coming from, is this Battle Force box or Strike Force, whatever those are, the big boxes. They had a number of different factions with them. And I believe that these task force, or like Task Force Gladius, these structures, the detachment structures that they've come out with are actually, I don't think they'd put these boxes out so close to 10th edition to negate them. So, and we always wondered, why isn't why is there so many of this unit, or what, or this unit, or how is it structured? Like the Raven Guard one, there's no real troops unless somehow the Reavers are going to be troops. So we're all kind of wondering that, especially from this side of things. And maybe now we kind of see why. And it's because these are probably going to be those whatever different style detachments that are going to be more conducive to different factions instead of, but with that being said, being able to play those units or that structure with different color models. But like if you wanted the Raven Guard one, you have the Phobos style infiltrator, heavy snipey stuff, hence the box that we got with the Invictor Tactical War Suits and the Eliminators and the Reavers and the Strike monster, or Strike character. But that also goes into that. I have a feeling that with these detachments, that, so I'm going with that theory that these are based off detachments, these Strike Force boxes or whatever, larger boxes that Raven Guard, Imperial Fist, and Salamanders, White Scars all got, etc. That those characters that are in there are going to be locked to those attachments, possibly. I don't know. That's just my thought. Or maybe they'll eventually have in the codex, but maybe those detachments, like you'll have a special detachment, and those characters might be locked in there, or they're incentivized to play in that detachment. That's just a thought. I don't have no idea. Excuse me, but I have a feeling that those boxes are tied to the types of detachments that we will be getting through the Space Marines, at least Space Marines codexes, or rules that we'll get, data sheets. Later on codexes, hopefully we'll get a little more niche stuff, but right now I think these boxes are based off that. I think this planning happened a long time ago, and now you have like the Gladius Strike Force thing that they gave a little mention of as a template for like a Space Marines detachment. Well, I think you have the Raven Strike stuff, you have the Imperial Fist deal, you have, the Salamander, these are going to be detachments. The White Scar one, they all kind of look like that, right? So I just have that feeling. That's my big thing that was put on the video. Secondly, in this, is that we're going to have, obviously, we're going to have a 2,000 point army. Oh, and on the box thing again, I have a feeling that those are going to be more like 1,000 points, those strike forces. Because combat control, I don't think you're going to get to 1,000 points. Maybe it's either they're going to be 1,000 points, and then the strike force boxes are going to be closer to 2,000, or the point schemes. Because I have a feeling those are supposed to be, like I said, the combat patrol boxes are supposed to kind of be sort of even points wise. I think they said that, but I think the strike force boxes, or the battle force box, I don't even remember the name of these, I got it over there, but the box I'm talking about, that those are going to be at least a 1,000 or 2,000 point level. They're intended to use to get you in the game with a viable army that can be used with 10th edition rules. That's my theory. And that those are detachment boxes, essentially. Yeah, anyway, we'll go with that. So the other thing, so the channel is going to be changing, because now by the time we get an army actually up and running, I could just blast them with paint and throw them on and try to get into something. but what's the point of that? I'm just gonna, I guess, take my time on this, and the first thing we do is gonna be under 10th edition, so we're all gonna be learning this thing together, and that's because that's coming at the end of the month. I say that because they're gonna have pretty essentially 10th edition rolling out at the end of the month, because they're gonna have at Warhammer Fest, they're gonna be doing 10th edition demo games. So every week we're getting stuff. We've got the new stat lines. They put an intercessor stat line, so now you know what leadership is. So you were like wondering what this leadership thing is on the new data cards. It's now kind of inverse, or the opposite of what was before. Now we're rolling 2d6 and we have to beat a number. So like on this intercessor guy here, they have where the leadership is 6+. Now it makes sense. Roll 2d6 on a 6+. He passes the battle shock test or whatever the new thing is. Then you have the QC thing, or not QC. I say QC like quality check or whatever. The objective control, so OC number. So they didn't really. They go into it a little bit, but essentially that's the ability to hold ground with fewer troops. So that number is kind of like a relationship between that. So those are interesting stat lines. They go into it a little bit more into how they've taken like a ballistic or a weapon skill. It's going to be like more of a relationship between the actual skill of what like a individual character or whatever battle line troop is, coupled with the weapon. So like they use the thing like a chain sword is a chain sword with a marine is going to be a little bit more effective than some kind of cultist, or some kind of even like a guardsman or something that has like a sword or whatnot. A space marine essentially is supposed to be a superhuman and would be able to wield such a weapon in just a greater effectiveness in general. So that the weapon skill that's going to be tied to that is going to be reflect that, as opposed to just having a weapon that has a certain skill. So but it's going down into those lines. So they show here the close combat weapon, how many of attacks, the weapon skill, the strength, damage, and then same thing with like they show a pistol here, which is a ranged weapon. They said it's going to work similar, like when you're relating hits to a character, it's going to remain similar to the style you have in 9th, with the comparison between strength and toughness. So they said if they were equal, you still roll a 4+. So that's what they hit. So it's interesting. They're getting a little more into this. So, and I was trying to look at this thing here where they have some painted models and salamanders, and I just don't. Okay, yeah. So there's like some aggressors over there. That might be from the box. That's what I'm talking about. I'm looking at those boxes. I keep seeing like weird things and images, and like, so those boxes mean something. They just came out. And then all of a sudden we had the rollout 10th edition. This has been planned, I'm telling you. Okay, so then the next thing that came out today, which is really cool, because we all saw that trailer, the 10th edition trailer, and we saw some interesting characters. I thought I saw Reavers. There's Terminators. They released Terminators. And then there's this other character. There's some weird combi weapons, and people already knew that was going to be some kind of, new guy. And of course they just come out with him. And he's a lieutenant. And he's like double blading it and he's got a combi weapon slinged. Looks pretty BA. He looks like a decent model. I'd like to see a stat line. And the stats, now that we're in 10th edition, I want to see the stats on that combi weapon. That'd be kind of cool. So, he looks like it's a combi flamer. So it's going to go kind of along those lines, which would be a cool lieutenant for like a salamanders. If you can, well, I guess in 10th edition you don't really know, right? So it could be good combi weapon if you use detachment that's salamanderisk, whatever that is. He'd be kind of cool. So we'll see. I mean, we're getting more information out as the days go on, but that dude looks pretty cool. The new lieutenant looks cool. Oh, so then another interesting thing happened. So I was concerned about getting that Vindicar assassin. I was like, oh man, I hope I can play him, later. He's a cool model, painted him up. Hope I can play him with my Raven Guard or whatever, Space Marines now, the Space Marine attachment. Well, they came out the boarding patrol boxes. They said the last two, which was Votan, and then they had naval breachers. was it? I'm not really I don't really care, too much about Imperial Agents, Photon Imperial Agents, all right? Don't really care like so much about that, even though that game actually kind of seems pretty cool, so we might get into it, but I haven't really cared about it. But some, those models cross over and their stat lines, it was crossing over to the ninth. So, or of course, I believe Border Patrol is based on it. But anyway, I was more interested in the models I've seen, because like if you're playing Votan, maybe you get a couple extra cool models, but then we go over here to these the Imperium side of things, and what do you see? And the first model on their little picture is I believe it's FSAR Assassin. So I was like, well, maybe the assassins are still playing a role, and we can have them in some kind of detachment and bring them on with like a Space Marine army, or some kind of Imperium army. So I mean, maybe there's still hope for me, because I kind of love that guy, and I think it'll be interesting moving the statistics into their own data state. So if you have that rifle, his executioner rifle, seeing what the actual stat line is on that thing is going to be pretty sweet. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to, and to see this come out with an assassin. It's like, okay, assassins still going to play, are still going to play in this next one. So excuse me. So pretty happy about that. Pretty happy about that. So we have also this. Where does this come out? Oh, that's earlier this year. So they have like different data sheets. But anyway, doesn't really matter to me on this. I'm just looking at these models and kind of dissecting and coming up with my own little theories. What does this all come down to is, looks like we're going to be building a 10th edition Space Marine army at this time. That's going to be whatever, a detachment specific one that has to do with more Phobos style dudes than anything. Because I have the infiltrators, I have my eliminators, and then I do have whatever the inceptors that I'm put together. And then I hope here's the X factor too. So I've been running those Vanguard vets. I got them. They got the shield. They got lightning claw. One of the sergeant has a dang sword and a lightning claw, because I was trying to vary those weapons so that the guy could, if I needed to take out a tank or something heavier, or I needed an extra roll on that, I was looking at things, and I obviously I didn't have that thing. Only comes with 4 shields, so that sucks. So I'm hoping that we can still play those, and they're still viable unit, especially when it comes to Raven Guard. Or, I hate to say that I blew that money. I mean, they're cool units, I guess, to keep them either way, but they come out with a new jump pack Vanguard vets, and I don't know if that's going to happen, but it'd be pretty sweet. So we'll see what happens on that realm, because that would be that Raven Guardish, and so many armies, and especially Space Marine armies, utilize Vanguard veterans. They play along the lines of a lot of tactics. So I hope we get something like that as the weeks unfold here. We still got a few more weeks until they do the demo games, and presumably we'll be having some more of these releases. And they seem to be more they alluded to as more of the along the lines of the Tyranid Space Marine thing. So I don't know if any other armies are really going to get much love in the beginning here. But for Space Marine players, we should be getting a lot of stuff. A lot of new models or whatever. But I hope some of these old models, like other editions, they're kind of melded in, because the Vanguard vets, I kind of like the look of them, and I'd like to see them play, or at least come out with some new ones and some stat lines where we can still play the old ones. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, that's it for me. I'll talk to you later. Peace.